The second part of this talk that we're doing on attraction. So let's introduce ourselves. I'm Chris. I run the YouTube channel Busy Becoming Myself, crawling up to around 5,000 subscribers right now. So it's grown a lot from like 600 as it was in September. So that's been really good. And I'm joined by my good friend, Andy. Andy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. It's good to be back. Thanks, Chris, for inviting me on again. I'm Andy Holt. I've got a YouTube channel called Tips and Tricks at Home. Mine's a bit less serious than Chris's, but I'm basically in technology most of my life, but I do like to get on YouTube and have these discussions. And yeah, I don't really talk too much about dating, but I love to give my theory on it because it's all my favorite subjects, all based on psychology. And yeah, glad to be back. And I enjoyed the first session on attraction. So I'm looking forward to this, Chris.
Yeah, so we had, we'd previously discussed between ourselves a research paper, which was a meta-analysis of a number of different studies on the topic of attraction and social status. And during this live, we wanted to go through this paper and kind of talk about some of why we have reached some of the conclusions we have. And I also want to say that even if you don't think that you've been gifted like top class levels of like attractiveness, that is something every single person can work on. And so this is very much a pro self-improvement, pro working on your potential here. So even if some of this might read as quite depressing, I think it's good to remember that there's a lot that you can do about it. So yeah, let me start sharing this paper.
Chris, I just want to say a couple of things about this.
Yeah, sure.
You're right. On our first chat, which was just over a week ago, a lot of that was based on some of the books, including Chris Campbell's book, Atomic Attraction. And although in Chris's book, he does cite a lot of studies, all of our discussion came from that book and also our own opinions and also things that we've seen in life since looking at such material. And I think this paper here, it confirms a lot of what we discussed last time. And, we're not saying it's correct or anything, but, it's all there for people to go and check out themselves because, part of this, it's almost like philosophy, isn't it? You've got to go and do your own reading and confirm your own facts. But this paper is really interesting because it does follow on from a lot of what we discuss with basically evidence of studies and things like that. So, it's not just our opinions, is it? And,
no, there's some actual science behind this.
Yeah, pretty much.
We're not just making this up. I mean, we do have the life experience of it. I mean, we've both come from a place where we were probably not so attractive. And I'm not saying we are the most attractive, like celebrity superstar, like hot models or whatever right now, but we've come a long way and our experience of life is very different than it was previously. So
yeah, but that's part of the journey, isn't it? I mean, it depends on who. And also this goes back just quickly before we go into the paper, Chris. This is one thing I would say, like there's kind of a difference between the sexes here. So if you're a female and you're born attractive, there's nothing to do, is there? You're born with that kind of inherent value. Whereas I'm going to say now, if you're a guy, it's kind of the opposite. When you're young and a guy, even if you're pretty, you're nothing. You know what I mean? You've got to become. You kind of have to become that man, if you know what I mean. It's kind of the difference between the two.
I mean, I think there is. I think there's more potential. Like a guy, say he doesn't have the best facial structure, he can build a body and look like he can look really good. Like I'm not super tall. I'm like 5'8", and I've had no problems with girls who might have expressed a preference for taller guys because I have other things to offer. And at the end of the day, when you're encountering the real person, kind of your theoretical list can sometimes go out of the window. And I would say I think there are things that girls can do. Like I said before, in the gym, I sometimes see like you do as well. Everyone does. Girls who they would just be average, but because they're so fit and they keep themselves in such great shape, they are extremely attractive. Like maybe they're not the most attractive girls that you've ever seen in your life. I mean, okay, even the talk of this, some people are going to get, some people might get a bit upset, like we're just talking to people at very superficial levels. But this whole topic right now is about human beings being superficial. But there is a lot that people can do, male or female, to make that good first impression.
Very true, very true. And also you mentioned about something there, if you've not got the best face, you can work on your body. You know, there's also there's a bit of a I don't know if it's like a subculture on it's called have you ever heard of lux maxing? There's all sorts of things that you can do with your face. I mean, one of the really simple ones that you've probably seen, and you know, when you're a little bit overweight and you're just puffy, and you can get that from drinking too much, being overweight. If you there's loads of different things where you can reduce. You just want to reduce. When you reduce your body fat, your face just looks better, and you can do things like fasting, cutting out carbs and things like that, where you just dry up, all the sort of water retention goes, and you just look a lot more angular.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's not so much water. It's just like losing just dropping from, like, I used to be high. I was never obese, but I was like high teens in my body fat. But just dropping from like 18% to 10%, my face looks so much better than it used to. So that makes such a big difference.
There is a limit, though. I mean, like a lot of people said to me, like thinking a couple of years ago, maybe 2021. I probably got the lightest I've been since I was about 18, right? And I got so skinny that I had to, it got way too far, you know what I mean? I think you can go too much. And even last year I went on a cut in summer and I looked great in terms of, like, I was all veiny, you know, I looked really ripped, like, but there was a limit where you could just tell you go a bit too far. And I always think the most attractive is around 10 to 12% body fat.
I agree. I think getting like bodybuilder competition lean is going
a bit too dry.
You like, I mean, it's described as like looking like you're covered in dick skin. It's just like you're just so like veiny and like it looks like there's nothing on your muscles. You're basically just like bone, muscle, and skin. And I don't think that's a good look. And I think this is something we discussed before, that when men just go into one particular aspect, they go way too far, and like they become a gym cell where like they've got all the muscles, they're ripped as hell, but they haven't got anything else going for them. Like they don't know how to talk to people. So we're like, when we say attraction, we mean like holistically, like not just your looks, but your posture, your mindset, like having confidence, being able to talk to people, all this factors into that attraction equation.
Yeah. How you dress, all the rest of it.
Yeah. So let's get into the paper, because I think the paper probably defines attraction a little more narrowly than we are, but let's go into this. So I'm just going to add it to the stream.
Firstly, on this paper, Chris, it is purely talking about visual aesthetics.
Yes.
It's not talking about mindset or attitude or any of that stuff. It's purely talking about visual aesthetics, this paper. So it is quite narrow.
Yes. Yeah. So this paper is by Tanya K. Frevert and Lisa Slattery Walker at University of North Carolina, Charlotte. And
Chris, just there at the top, the title of it, Physical Attractiveness and Social Status.
Yes.
That title is exactly what it's talking about. So it's not even talking about dating, it's talking about everyday situations in life and how this affects you. Okay.
Yeah. So let's go to this introduction, because I think this basically says what it's about. During the last several decades, researchers and practitioners across disciplines such as sociology, psychology, education, business, and organizational science have studied and sometimes contested the "what is beautiful is good" effect, which posits that physical attractiveness, i.e. beauty or ugliness, confers advantages to individuals in society. For example, when attractive individuals are compared to less attractive peers, those deemed attractive are more likely to be hired, are shown to earn more money, are treated better in criminal and civil proceedings, and are viewed as better students. These positive outcomes are often due to performance expectations that have become associated with attractiveness. This paper first discusses the status effect of attractiveness, and then showcases research studies across several domains that demonstrate attractiveness as a status characteristic. Okay, so that really sets the tone for the paper. They are describing attractiveness here as defined as beauty or ugliness identified through facial features. Now, I think that's too narrow a definition, because I think attractiveness for everyone is more than just the face, even at a superficial level.
Yes, correct.
And like, sometimes, like, being honest as a male, sometimes the face is the last thing you notice.
Okay. Yeah, you're a little bit like me on that. I mean,
yeah, you get there, but
like a pretty face, but
you see the figure from a distance before you, and you think, oh wow,
100%.
like, that looks interesting, before you get to see the face. So
yeah.
And I also think women, like, they also bring into things like height, build, posture as well, before they get into facial attractiveness. So I think this is, on a practical level, a bit too narrow, but I think actually what they actually study is much more wide. So even though the introduction says this, I think the perceived attractiveness, like, there's more factors going on in what they discuss.
Yeah. And also, when you read just a bit further down there towards the bottom of the page, it starts talking about, I've just got my notes here, so it starts talking about, when we talk about status characteristic definitions, it goes beyond the face. It says such as gender, race, age, education, occupation, reading ability, and attractiveness, as if attractiveness thrown in at the end there. But things like gender and race have not got as much to do with the face. There are a bit wider than, so it isn't just, I think it's talking about visual appearance in the main, and it is obviously majoring around the facial aesthetics. I think they're using facial aesthetics just to define the status characteristic, which it talks about next, are things like in reference to age, it's young and old. In reference to attractiveness, it's beautiful, attractive, or ugly and unattractive. You know what I mean? So it's almost got like two states. Yeah. Attractive, unattractive, beautiful, ugly, young, old, and then also in terms of, like, male, female, if you like. So that's one thing I picked up from it. When it's talking about status characteristics, it's talking about one or the other.
Yeah, but it's more of a spectrum, and it's more like a matrix.
Well, yeah, there's not young and old. I mean, that's so subjective. It's not young and old. It's not binary, or it's analog. There's a massive scale, isn't there?
Yeah.
And same with what is beautiful and what is attractive. I picked up on the term "in the eye of the beholder," which is very true. We do have in the eye of the beholder. So I have some very, very niche things that I find attractive that a lot of people want.
Yeah.
It's almost like nerdy and quirky.
Yeah,
but it's just what I like, you know.
Yeah, I think there's definitely individual things,
Yeah.
but there's sort of like there's the major trends, and then there's the micro specificities that are unique to the person.
Yeah, it says here, although there might, it says here, whilst beauty is frequently deemed to be in the eye of the beholder, people share common criteria for defining beauty across cultures.
Yeah.
You know, this is like, you know, there's common things, isn't there, that people find beautiful.
Yeah, and I think this is also like you see like it's almost like propaganda that like yes, there have been times and there have been societies that have, for example, experienced famine, and therefore carrying a bit more body fat was seen as, okay, this person's healthy, this person's like not going to die soon, so that is more attractive. But it's like in the post-industrial age that we're in now, we've never, like, there are extremes of obesity that didn't exist before. And
yeah, I think it's gone
and all these things, they instinctually come across as weird to most people.
Yeah, I agree. But we've all got our own preferences, right? And that's one thing. When it comes down to, I'm just thinking, when it comes down to attraction, this is one area of society that no one challenges. You know, you can kind of challenge social norms on a lot of things, like how to treat people, equal opportunities and things like that, and you're expected to behave, and that's great. But you don't hear anyone challenging someone's right to have their own taste in attraction. You know what I mean? That's just, we just accept that. You know?
I don't know. I think I don't know. I think male preferences versus female preferences. Like I remember the creator Dad Starting Over had he put a question out to men and to women, exactly the same question, and it was like, if your partner came to you and said, like, you've let yourself go, I don't feel attracted to you anymore, what would you do? And like most of the men were saying, okay, yeah, I'd get in the gym, I'd look at my health, I'd try to figure out like how I can fix this. And from the women, it was so like this, so asymmetric. It was like, oh my gosh, leave him, he's like, you should find someone better. It was a totally different reaction. I mean, there is also, you know, there's now when people talk about unrealistic beauty standards, I also think that it's pushed to cope levels, because like I said to you, like what was called unrealistic when I was, say, back in the UK, and this is going to piss people off, when you actually meet these women and you date them, and like all the time you've been told that's unrealistic, that doesn't exist, and then you like, yeah, I'm literally with someone that I was told is unrealistic and like impossible to obtain. There is photoshopping, there's completely unrealistic and unhelpful things, but there's also just calling rare impossible, which is not fair. Yeah,
true. I mean, yeah, that's very true, Chris. I mean, it's getting off topic a little bit, but end of the day, you know, that's just people being people, basically. They've all got their own opinions, and you know, we could debate that, but you know, I mean,
but anyway, let's continue.
Let's stick to the science. One thing I just want to, just before we move on to the next page, I just want to pick up on that introduction. When I read that introduction, the paragraph above, what that said to me, that whole section there, was being attractive and what it does for you in life. It's what is beautiful is good. It's a halo effect. So it's like what we spoke about in the first one. So first impressions matter, you know what I mean? And when you meet someone that's attractive, there's a halo effect. You just assume, and I've read this whole thing, I've just read it before. There's so many examples of when you meet someone that's attractive, you just assume that they are more capable the more healthy, the better at this, the better, without knowing any facts, you know. And I don't know if you've realised this whenever you've met someone in life in the past, and the people where you have the biggest natural connection with, you know, in about 30 seconds, it's that quick. Sometimes like a couple of seconds, it's just straight away. And you just know, and you automatically have this halo effect about them.
Yeah, but sometimes, like in my experience, that halo effect, like I have had those really strong feelings of connection, but I was connected to a fantasy of the person, not who they actually were, or who they might have presented themselves to be that way.
Correct.
But you know, I know that I've had a habit of thinking, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful, I hope she's a nice person. That's life's like, surprise, she's not. And
yeah, but I think the halo effect is good if you're in a healthy place. If you're not in a healthy place and you end up with some halo effect like that, and you feel I know what you're talking about there, where you just knocked off your feet and you crumble. But that's when you're not in a healthy place, and that's when you start doing things. You know, you're then going over and above and giving this person too much validation off nothing that they've not earned. And I think that's kind of difference. That's where you are. So imagine if you're in a healthy place, you're really good, you know, you're really sound in your life, everything's going well, and then you meet someone, that halo effect, I think it can be quite good at that point, you know, as long as you know where your boundaries are and things, and you're not just going to crumble in front of this person. But this is how it is. I mean, the paper, you know, without going into it, well, we will go into it. It's time after time in every scenario in here, whether it's in the jobs market, what happens immediately when you see someone who's attractive, they assume out of nowhere, and I'm sure we'll get onto it, without any facts, they don't know how clever this person, but they assume that they are better than they are, more capable, you know. And that's just psychology, you know, of how the human mind works.
Yeah. Let's dig into the paper though, because we've been talking around it quite a lot. So where were we? So we talked about those extremes. So this is, I think this part is quite important. So the effects of attractiveness, while especially profound in task-focused and collectively oriented groups, are also present in many other types of social interaction, and even when no true interaction takes place. Furthermore, the effects of attractiveness may accumulate over the life course, such that attractive individuals gain influence that compounds over time into general social advantage, while unattractive individuals lose influence that compounds over time to general social disadvantage.
Yeah.
So it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in that, like this.
Well, that one there, Chris, reminds me of what we talked about politicians. You know, I mean, it's different in the UK. The politicians in the UK, I think, I don't do politics, but whenever I've watched a politician in the UK, it's always put as how professional they look, how competent they look. Whereas when I think about, I might have this stereotype, but when I think about politicians from the United States, they're very much on the visual, aren't they? I mean, yeah, there are some exceptions to that, of course. I'm not saying they're all beautiful, but they're always well presented and polished. You can imagine like people putting on like makeup on them all and stuff before they go on camera and all the rest of it. Like that's how I see, you know, politicians really. It's that influence that they carry when they're presented really well. They're always dressed smart and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, like I think I've said before, they occupy the space of the guru or the leader or they basically occupy the spaces that our parents occupied in our minds. That this person is someone I can just throw all the complications of life at, and they will take care of everything. Whereas actually, they're just a human being winging it just the same as everyone else is.
they're not actually doing a great deal. I mean, you think about a politician, what are they? They're just a voice for the public. They're not actually doing anything.
Yeah.
They've not got hands-on role in running the country or anything. That's the civil servants. Or, you know, they're just a voice of the public. So really, if you think about it, you've got all this competence, you know, they're portraying competence, that's fine. But what are they actually doing with the time? But anyway, that's getting off topic a bit.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so the idea is in this is that people who are perceived as more attractive had advantages throughout life. And so like in school, they're treated better, they're given more opportunity to learn. In employment, they're hired more easily, they get promotion more easily. Even when it comes to medical treatment, they tend to be treated better. So this is what this part of the paper is about. And it comes on to specific examples of school and education and hiring later. But the next section of the paper is on race and gender. So in Western cultures, such as the United States, they have long held a mythologized ideal of beauty, one based upon preferences for Eurocentric features over Afrocentric features, i.e. hair, and to light skin over dark skin, stemming from centuries of colonialism and slavery that distinctly categorized light-skinned Europeans as superior to dark-skinned Africans, Asians, Indians, and other indigenous peoples.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Because I don't quite understand this bit. I understand the idea that the United States have had this belief, and that's all over the advertising, you know, for decades and decades. But stemming from centuries of colonialism and slavery that distinctly categorized lighter-skinned Europeans as superior to darker-skinned Africans, Asians, and Indians, and other indigenous peoples. It'd be interesting to see what that. I've not read that study. I'm just it's quoting the study here, Hunter, 1998. Well, there's 3 studies here. I wonder what those studies say. Are they suggest? I'm going to ask a question. Are they suggesting that that view has been sort of fabricated because of the slavery movement? Or is it just a pure? Because I always think, right, I'm going to go a little bit on a tangent here, but I studied the history of architecture when I was studying architecture, and one of the things was they looked at classic architecture, right, like the Greeks and the Romans and all the rest of it, and the theory of it was that it was just certain architecture was just beautiful to the eye, right, and when you actually analyze this architecture, you realize that the measurements were all in proportion. It was also is it the golden
ratio,
1 to 1.6 ratio,
1.618.
And I even came up with my own theory that your eyes just know when things fit. You know, the human body is made to 1 to 1.6 ratio, and if somebody had really, really short legs compared to the body, it would just look wrong, you know. I don't want to say wrong, that's probably the wrong way to say it, take that back. But it just looks, it's not the optimum that the brain wants to see. So this 1 to 1.6 ratio was all over architecture and all over the classics. And there was little details that they struggle with. And the reason why I say that is the idea that you can fabricate an emotional feeling of attraction, I don't buy. I think people are attracted to what they're attracted to because of just what the brain and the eyes naturally want to represent. You know what I mean? I don't think you can force that through something. I don't know.
So,
maybe they're saying that colonialism and slavery have put that view in people's minds. Maybe.
Okay, but in this, so I would say that there is like mathematical, like men pick up on like a bust to waist and hip to waist ratio that's like in that same like 1.618 ratio, and like we we pick up on facial symmetry. So yeah, those things are there, but I don't think you're talking about this section. I think you're talking about okay, you're talking about in general.
I'm trying to be a bit more general, but
yeah,
to put it into context with this section, I am not sure that I don't know on this paper where they're coming from here when they talk about centuries of colonialism and slavery. I mean, yeah, did put the idea into people's minds.
Okay, so speaking as someone, so I'm half Asian, and
yeah,
I can speak something on this.
Yeah,
because so there's a few things happening here. There is in some cultures, there's the preference for what you know. So people are more likely, and like this also goes back to like some Freudian like women are looking for a man like their dad, men are looking for a woman like their mum, kind of like, oh well, you look like my dad, therefore like this, there's the this primal attraction that's come, that's part of you even before you were like from your very earliest childhood, that becomes the basis for your sexuality. There's that. There's also the idea that and I see this in Asian cultures, skin whitening creams exist in Asian cultures because the association is if you spend time outside, then you're one of the poor workers, that you're out in the fields all day, whereas the rich women got to stay, like the rich men and women got to stay indoors, and so they had lighter skin because they had less exposure to the sun.
Wow, I never knew it was about that.
Yeah, so it's
that's surprising.
Yeah, and so like it's seen as more like in Sri Lanka. Like I had like an uncle who was light, like he's the lightest kid, and they call him Kiriputta. So it was like milk son because he was his skin was lighter, and that was seen as a good thing.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Different cultures have different reasoning about this, but I mean, but again, in the West, what do people do? They sunbathe. So it's like there's a different association around the same thing. Like in the West, having slightly tan skin, like if you're white, having a suntan is seen as a good thing in the summer. Whereas for me, I don't give a shit. I'm tan all year round, and I can tan in 15 minutes outside.
Well, I wear sunblock because I want to protect my skin. So
yeah. I mean, that's a good practice. But I do think there is an aspect of socialization in that, like in the UK and in the US, Indian guys, for example, don't like they have that going against them because many women will date a white guy or a black guy, but there's something about East Asian men, like Southeast Asian men, that they're not seen as masculine, and that's something that they have to deal with, and it
is. I know we both know guys like this, and it's a real thing. Yeah.
And
but
so
those guys, though, Chris, that we know, they know this. They're not.
I mean, they even joke about it, like it's called the curry tax. Like
the curry tax, yeah, our friends said that.
Like you have to put in more work. You have to bring more to the table to compensate. Yeah. It's like the same with being shorter. Like there's studies of like how much more money a shorter guy has to earn compared to a taller guy to be equally attractive. And it's like, if he's really short, he's basically got to be a multi-millionaire in order to like be at the same level as an average earning guy who's like 6'2". So there are like factors that I mean, some of it, like with the height thing, there is an evolutionary reason behind that, but I think around the race, it's that socialization, and that's the messages you take in.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, I guess like with me, it just like, I don't know, just race it just doesn't matter. And even think about what I find attractive too. It's changed over the years. So when I was young, I only really liked Asian girls, that was it. I that was what I was into. And then it moved, and I was into blonde Caucasian women, you know.
Yeah.
And now I'm into dark women, so dark hair. I still like blondes, but I like them with darker hair too. So, but I never used to like that, you know. So I've kind of changed over the years. But my view on it, I am surprised at this, because I didn't think that mattered as much, because when
yeah, but it's like, I think it is a factor for like.
Yeah. Do you think some of this could be down to, like, I'm just thinking about where you came from in terms of not your cultural heritage, Chris, but where you grew up. I know that particular part of Wales. Well,
do you know what I said about people want people who look like what they know?
Well, yeah, but I think there's we know some of these places, right? And there tends to be, it's almost like a small town mentality, you know what I mean? Where anything different is kind of scary, you know. And I've been doing something recently with a bunch of other guys on almost like talking about enlightenment and ego development. There's this thing called the 9 stages of ego development, and the lower are you're down on those in terms of your enlightenment. The lower down you are, the more small-minded you are, if you like, you know. Once you've kind of experienced some culture and you're friends from all over the world and things like this, and you know, it's one of the things that I like. We're going to get into some real sidetracking here now, but it's one of the things that I like about private schools, right? Private schools are like international schools because they attract people from all around the world. Whereas if you look at this is really bad, what I'm going to say, but if you look at a comprehensive school, it represents the mean demographic of that particular area, no matter what country you're in. Whereas if you go to, like, you know, if a kid goes to a private school, it's like going to an international school where they meet many different kids from many different, you know. I've got a friend who lives in Hong Kong. He teaches at a private school there, and you can imagine that the people that go to that school, and a lower percentage of them will be native than what there would be if you go into a normal comprehensive. And I think that happens. So where you were from, Chris, in that part of Wales, there'll be a lot of small town mentality, and they just don't, I mean, you know, they don't like, they're not used to seeing people outside of that particular.
And I was different culture. Like, I looked different. I was brought up mainly by my mother, so my cultural coordinates were very different than the people around me. So I was not like socially coherent with everyone else, and I didn't look like I didn't look like one of the attractive guys in the school. So I had absolutely pretty much nothing from girls until in my 30s, really. Or even if I had the potential, like I had some scraps in my 20s, and I thought, well, this is like never going to happen again, so I need to throw everything I have at this. But I think this is I think if I had been raised in a city with people from, like, I almost moved to Cardiff, like when I was a kid, and gone to a Cardiff school, that probably, not even private, just being in a city with different people, that was much more internationally focused. That would have been really good for me, I think, rather than staying in a small town and being the reject. Because being shaped to be the reject and growing up thinking you're a reject at home, reject in public, that didn't do my self-image very good.
Well,
but actually, you know what, about the curry tax, what I found is, I don't think maybe it exists in Poland, but it doesn't apply the same way. Like, it's not, I don't see points being taken off me because I've got brown skin. It's more seen as, okay, that's different, that's interesting. I once described it to someone, like, back home, I felt like, oh, you look different, that's not what I want. At least in Poland, it was, you look different, that's interesting, let me talk to him, I want to get to know him. And so I found I was getting actual opportunities to get to know women in.
Which is surprising, because my understanding of Poland is that it's probably one of the most monocultural countries in the world.
Yeah, but
you know
when
what I
something
mean?
is different, then it's. I mean, I'm sure there's like I've also dated Polish girls that like I was very short-term fun for them because they ultimately wanted to like marry a nice, quiet Polish boy. So
Okay.
I was like, yeah, they had their excitement. I mean, it's getting off topic, but it's like I had one girl say, "Oh, I wouldn't have been as sexual with you if if I thought you were relationship material." But so she literally just had this mindset of just like she wants to present a completely different side of herself to the guy she marries than the side that she was showing me. So yeah, but that's getting a little. Again, we're getting off topic. But I think what we can say is that the paper that we're talking about here, it's more complex than just colonialism. There is that, but there's more to it than just that.
Well, I'm just thinking, Chris, this section is called race and gender. I mean, race, obviously, we talked about at length. I mean, gender's an interesting one, because I've underlined quite a few bits on this, which is really interesting to talk about. So can you flash the paper back?
Yeah, sure. Which part do you want to look at?
Where are you there? Oh, yes, just there, yeah. So if you look at this kind of, that paragraph that you're on there, yeah, similarly.
Yeah.
Right, the bit further down, sexual type goodness effect, which points that attractive females are rated more positively on female traits, whilst attractive males are rated most positively on masculine traits. So there's almost like gender specific traits, which we know. And these are different, right? And then when you go, if we just skip a bit further down where it says, whilst we may usually associate being perceived as attractive as beneficial for women, perceived attractiveness can also be detrimental for women, particularly in the workplace. And I think this is worth a discussion.
Yeah.
So, and almost, if we look at the next bit, where they may violate traditional gender norms, for example, effective authority and leadership is typically viewed as a masculine characteristic, and thus attractive women are not expected to possess the ability to lead. So that's a really interesting one. In other words, if you're an attractive woman, it actually goes against you in the workplace. And this is a horrible thing to hear, I think, because I've actually seen this. I've worked with some women that have actually suffered from this.
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely terrible, but it's like everything in this paper, you know, the best thing you can do is read it and understand it and come to your own conclusions. And then, like everything you read here, my opinion is you should, rather than try and hide it or deny it and things like that, you shouldn't do that. You should just try and accept it and then navigate it. Use the knowledge that you got here and navigate it based on the cards that you dealt. But I remember I used to work in corporate, and I saw this quite a lot. And I remember I worked with one girl who was really talented, but it just went against her because she was pretty. You know what I mean? And it's kind of horrible to see.
Do you think it's an insurmountable challenge, or just a challenge that you're going to have to get used to facing?
Well, what do you do about it? I mean, further down I read further down, where are we now? There's a few pages in. It talks about a couple of movie stars. Here we go. Marilyn Monroe, arguably the worldwide epitome of beauty, was reviewed as not a serious actress during her lifetime, just because she was pretty. And then also in the film Legally Blonde, Reese Witherspoon, right? Even though she was super clever, she was not deemed as serious, you know what I mean, by a lot of people. And it's like, well, what do you do with that? Do you deliberately go into work and not wash your hair and not put makeup on and wear baggy clothes? I don't know. I don't know the answer to this, Chris.
I think, I mean, I'm never going to be in that position that I'm so good looking that people don't take me seriously. But yeah, I think.
Well, I think it's the opposite for men. It says here that if you're attractive as a man,
you get taken more seriously
into a leadership position. 100%.
I think, like you said, it's a case of accepting and navigating it rather than trying to change who you are.
Yeah.
Like, I think changing who you are because of the narrow-mindedness of other people is a terrible mistake.
In the workplace, yes. And if you just want to talk about workplace specifically, there are a lot of things wrong with the workplace, and you know, all sorts of, and I think that you should always go your own way in the workplace, but that's me. Not everyone's kind of born to go their own way and be a leader. Some people just want a job and no hassle at the end of the day. But there's always things that you can do. If you're annoyed with the workplace, you can just leave and start a business and carve your own way or improve what you do and do that on merit. Can I just point out something that's just come to my mind? It's not in this paper, but I'm in tech, right? And there was a documentary on about, do you know who Dame Stephanie Shirley is? I think it's Dame Stephanie Shirley. She was one of the computer pioneers, right?
Okay.
If you go on Google it while I'm talking about this, she was one of the computer pioneers that in the early days of when everything was binary code, there was no sort of modern software languages and things. And I think she founded the company Stereo. I don't know if it's the same one as Sopra Steria now, but she made a lot of money out of in the computing world because she could code in binary. Now, when she was trading, this was like back in the sort of 60s or something like this, 50s or 60s maybe.
Yeah.
She called herself Stevie Shirley, because no one had taken her seriously. So she used to get business by not doing face-to-face. It was all writing to people, and she'd do business under the guise of the name Stevie Shirley rather than Stephanie Shirley. And she also became famous for employing, she taught stay-at-home mothers to do binary software coding part-time, and they were her workforce, and she made a lot of money and became one of the biggest names in tech and is an absolute legend. But it was just strange how even she admitted in the document, I can't remember the name of the documentary, I think you can even watch it on YouTube, where she said that she had to go under the radar of the name Stevie Shirley just so she could get business in the 1960s. I mean, I don't know if anyone can check that fact out. I remember just seeing it, but there's just an example of you know, how in the workplace not being taken seriously. I mean, this paper suggests that if you're a woman and you're not attractive, you could probably do better in positions of authority, which I find really, really, you know, well, it's distasteful, but you know, the paper is what it is, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think. I mean, like that example of like not doing face to face. I would hope that. I hope we've moved on, that we can, even if our initial reaction is not to take people so seriously, I hope that we're moving to a place that we can, like, that, you know, sexism in the workplace is not, like, is universally condemned now. So yeah. I hope it's a better environment. I just don't have the data to say that it is yet.
Sure.
Okay, shall we get back to the paper?
Yes.
Okay, so we were talking, okay, we skipped ahead a lot there. Let me get back to.
You sharing it, Chris?
Sorry, I can share it, but I just want to get back to where we were. So we've done race and gender. Let's skip ahead to performance evaluations.
Yeah.
So a large volume of research has also examined the effects of attractiveness in the classroom. A meta-analytic review has demonstrated that attractive students are judged more favorably by teachers along several dimensions: intelligence, academic potential, grades, and social skills. Now, I don't think that this is necessarily sexual. I think this is, oh, that kid is so cute, I bet they're also really clever.
Yes.
I don't think it's like necessarily, I don't think it's necessarily anything that's that's
definitely a halo effect thing, though.
Yeah.
Because they're judging them. You know, this is being favoured by teachers probably before they've even submitted an exam paper or something like this.
Yeah, like the cute, sweet
judging.
Yeah, the cute, sweet little boys and girls are seen as like, oh, they've got more potential.
They're more
pleasant.
Tim's just put a comment on that says no one actually thinks like that. Well, we're not saying either way. We're just reading the paper. This is what the paper's saying, which is based on research. Of course, you know, we can all have our own opinions, but I mean, you know, you'd probably have to read this paper here, this actual bit of research. But yeah, it does.
Yeah, and I think the thing about the thing about research is the data that you collect shows people's unconscious assumptions.
Well, yeah, and this is what I like about data and things like, because data really is like statistics. I was having this chat in another discussion about stats, statistics. People always think that they, okay, Sim, you're one parent, right? Let's talk about statistics a minute. I would never argue with statistics because there's always outlier cases. But the best thing about statistics is it's just that is the mean average, if you know what I mean. So, like, there's a lot of experts out there that think they know better than statistics and argue against statistics. And you've also got the outlier cases, like the one individual that's changed the view of, you know, just particularly in that one case, that one isolated case. But stats are stats, you know, statistics are statistics, and we cannot argue with what happens in terms of the average. And there's this term called regression to the mean, where everything tends to fall back to statistics overall over time. Anyway, we're getting a bit off topic, but
no, I think regression to the mean is an important point here. I mean, okay, let's deviate from classroom for a second.
Yeah.
Because I think regression to the mean is important for people to understand, in that you basically end up with you end up attracting the sort of people at your level. Like, there's some above and there's some below, but the mean, is what is the level you're at. And I guess this is also, okay, another tangent. This is also going into for men and women, it's a little different. I think there is I think in general for relationships there are more criteria for both, but men will have sex with just about anything, and they're not necessarily going to enter relationships with every girl that you find sexually attractive.
Yeah, I don't think that's the wisest position. Enough. Can I just shut one blind? I've got.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you see it? It's absolutely beaming into my eyes. Just 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
Close.
And Simona, the paper was written I think this was published in 2014, but the reference is in 1992.
I think, Sim, what we'll do is we'll put the link to the paper down below. I mean,
yeah, we'll put it in the events after
I mean, the paper actually is like an exec summary. To be honest, it references so many other, and if you go into the back, there's about how many? There's kind of 4 or 5 pages just on individual references that have been cited. So it's not.
This is what I loved about.
This is 11 pages long, but
yeah, like the references on this paper,
like really extensive.
Here we go. Like references. This is like a page 9, 10.
Yeah.
11. This is like it's looked at everything. Yeah, and it was published in 2014 in Sociological Campus.
Mm.
Yeah. So there's a lot of study that's gone into this, and that's why I think it's a really good paper that tries to show things from multiple points of view. And actually, I think I don't think that these are particularly strongly biased, because they seem to be at some points advocating things that would like left-leaning people would want to advocate, and at other times they're just kind of saying, well, we evolved to be like this. This is the way people are.
But just we're not talking about I don't want to argue about the efficacy of research, because sometimes research can be very flawed and biased. It can be tailored towards one way or another. But it's like anything, really. You have to do your own reading. I wouldn't take any of this as gospel truth without actually digging into it yourself, even reading this paper, because a lot of studies can be conducted wrong. They can be biased initially to favour a certain outcome. But it's like everything in life. The best way to confirm any theory is to go out there and try it and, experience it and read and research. But yeah. We're just reading it, Chris.
Yeah. Don't shoot the messengers.
Yeah, you've got a point though, there, Sim. It's not in all cases. I do get that.
Yeah, it's like I said, we're talking general trends.
Yeah, general trends.
Not every single case. Like it's, generally smoking is bad for you, but there will be some 90-year-old who smoked all their life who seems to be fine. But it doesn't mean that will work for everyone.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay, let's keep going. Basically, starting off with that treatment in school. So Parks and Kennedy, 2007, examined the relationship between race, gender, and attractiveness on perceived academic and social competence. Results showed that Black unattractive boys were given the lowest competency ratings by a group of teachers and undergraduate education majors.
Wow.
These results also demonstrate that the multiple jeopardy effect that often plagues individuals who are identified simultaneously belonging to 2 or 3 lower status categories of race, gender, and attractiveness.
On this one, I remember hearing somewhere, so I tend to switch off from the news. I don't bother with politics or anything. But I remember hearing somewhere that there was certain universities in the United States that had so much positive discrimination that they were favouring particular groups, and it even went as far as, correct me if I'm wrong here, Chris, I think there was one university that was deliberately downgrading Asian Americans, because Asian Americans are considered the smartest people in the United States. And
because they have a culture of throwing themselves,
of working hard.
Yeah.
They've put themselves into that position because they've got a culture of working very hard and studying very well. And they were getting penalised by a university just for being Asian American. Is that true?
I think there are. I don't know enough about the substances of these cases, but I think like the affirmative action does end up, because there are limited numbers of people, it does, like if you grade for anything other than just competence, you're going to get lower overall competence. Like if you say you have to have a certain number of people of this race and that race, etc., rather than just saying, I don't see anyone's races, I don't care what they look like. Like what were their scores on the GAMSAT or GMAT or whatever exam was, and like how did they interview, etc.
Well,
when you're looking at things other than competence, I don't think it's a good move.
I mean, personally, I don't think there's anything worse than positive discrimination. I can't think of anything worse to do in any domain. I just don't see the value in it whatsoever. I think you should always just judge on competence. And
yeah, but the idea is that because people have these biases, it's like trying to address what we're talking about today. It's like people have these biases, so we're going to try to correct the other way. So we know that you're not going to see these people, so we're going to push more this way so that they get an equal opportunity. But it's hard to do because you don't know what the level of discrimination is in the system. Like you'd say, well, okay, it should be this percentage of the population, but that doesn't factor in, culture, and it doesn't factor in, like you said, like Asian Americans are overrepresented in American medical schools and highly paying professions. But that's because culturally they have this not every single case, but they have a trend to really focus on education, even to the suffering of their social skills and happiness and balance in life. I have one Asian parent, and I know it's like I was pushed really, really hard to focus on nothing.
You should have been a doctor, Chris.
Well, I would have, but my mother was like, no, don't work for the NHS, it's terrible. So yeah. Although I think I would have been happier being a doctor than in finance, because I'm much more people focused. But I am where I am now. I don't think I don't think I can really change course much. But yeah, let's. But actually, on this discrimination, there are areas that you can't positively discriminate against. So it wasn't just race that people are discriminated against on. Ugly people are discriminated against. But do you have quotas saying, well, 20%, at least 20, 30% of the student population must be ugly?
Well, I don't think they can get away with that.
I'm going to apply for a scholarship on the basis that I'm ugly. Can you imagine?
I don't know. I don't know if that'll wash, but yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, this is the thing. It's like you can positively discriminate on some things, but you're not going to get every avenue on which people may be discriminated against, because some are not things that you can easily label, such as you can positively discriminate on race, gender, but you can't fix this. And actually, someone who is very attractive but the less favored race or gender, they might still be doing better than an ugly person of the preferred race and gender.
I agree with that. Just my gut feeling, without any evidence, just almost anecdotally. When it comes down to attractiveness, it's everyone's individual taste, and that is one area of society that tends to be unchallenged. There's no politically incorrect way to say that I don't find you unattractive. I don't find you attractive or not. That goes. It's almost accepted, but there's politically correct ways about everything else there that's on that list, other than whether someone's ugly or attractive. I think that's the only area that you can, well, it's not even socially acceptable to tell people, because it just wouldn't work,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, don't know if I'm making sense there, Chris. If you.
Yeah, no, I get you. I think I would say that it should be the case that you are attracted to what you are attracted to, but I would say still there is shaming for not being attracted to. I mean, there's shaming about not being attracted to certain people, or being attracted towards certain people. Like, if I was like my girlfriend is 22, and I'm attracted to her, and she's attracted to me, but there are people who don't even know me or her that would have a problem with that.
Well, yeah, but that again is society, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
it's outside the norm, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't attracted to her because she was young. I was attracted to her because she's freaking beautiful, and she's a really beautiful person. But anyway, let's continue. Yeah, attractiveness in the classroom is bidirectional. Just as teachers use attractiveness to judge and evaluate students, so do students use attractiveness to judge and evaluate teachers, both at the primary and secondary levels of education. So basically, if the teacher is attractive, you're going to pay more attention in class.
Do you think?
You're going to turn up for class anyway.
Well, yeah, you'll turn up. I'm just thinking anecdotally on that. Yeah, probably true. Just anecdotally, I don't know what the research says. I presume it's suggesting confirming the same. Okay.
Okay, have we done education enough?
Yeah, move on.
Yeah, okay, let's move on to hiring.
Yeah.
So there's a positive relationship between attractiveness and increased likelihood to be hired for a job, and that's consistently demonstrated. For example, more attractive job applicants obtain more favorable hiring recommendations and are perceived as more highly qualified. More attractive job applicants also receive higher compensation than less attractive applicants. Shall I go on?
Well, yeah, okay. I was just thinking, this bit, however, there are circumstances in which attractiveness is actually detrimental in the hiring process, particularly for female job applicants. Yeah. This is what we talked about before.
Yeah, so it's like...
It's these two terms, which I know it mentioned them in the conclusion. So the first term, I can't remember what it was called. I think it was on the first page, actually. I can't remember what it's called now. What is beautiful is good. And this one here talks about where females struggle in the workplace. Beauty's beastly effect.
Yeah.
I don't know if you picked up on that.
Yeah, I'm highlighting it now.
Yeah. Beauty is beastly effect. So it's like the opposite. And then when you read a bit further down, it says these outcomes stem from Hill and Landau's sex typical goodness effect regarding feminine and masculine traits, which carries over into a perceived lack of fit for attractive women seeking male type managerial jobs. So why are these managerial jobs classed as male typed?
Probably because they were traditionally done by men.
Maybe that's coming into it. I don't know, but I don't think we see some. I don't know. That just doesn't. Maybe because I'm thinking about today.
Yeah, I mean the paper referenced here is a 1976 paper on sex typical goodness, but then the 2010 one was on managerial jobs.
Yeah. Okay. So it's probably still there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, but this conclusion by we don't have time to get into the underlying papers here, but overall, the benefits of attractiveness at work outweigh the costs, but there are circumstances when attractiveness carries a penalty. So you might be more likely to be hired, you might be more likely to be paid well, but you might have a challenge of being taken seriously.
I keep seeing Sim put, I disagree. Sim, you can disagree with it. You can disagree with it for sure. But read it,
Yeah.
And I think I just want to say, back to what we said earlier, with anything like this, there's always something alarming in papers like this. And this is why you read them. And I think my own personal view is if you bury your head in the sand and just disagree with all of this stuff, then that's on you. If you want to do that, that's fine. But I don't think you should. I think you can disagree with it, but this is why I think on the topic of reading anything, I think you should read as wide as possible, as much as possible, as wide as possible, every viewpoint, and then form your own philosophy from that. If you just disagree with things without reading them or whatever, I'm not saying you are saying, by the way, but if it doesn't fit with your own, because it might be a challenge on your own internal beliefs, and that's, if you think about what philosophy is, you've got to have your beliefs challenged. You've got to be able to read and understand anything, and then if something turns out to be truthful through a lot of inquiry, you've got to accept it, because if you disagree with something that you find to be true, I think that's too dogmatic. You then, I'm only believing this particular view and I'm not interested in any other view. I just think you're getting into dogma then. And, this isn't a debate on beliefs and things, but okay. We don't need a research paper to state attractiveness gets you further in life. Some things are just black and white. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've said it there, Sim. I'll agree with that. Yeah, I think that's 100% true.
Okay.
We don't need a research paper, full stop. You're right. We're just talking about it. Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, Sim. It was probably on the. Actually, let's just go back.
I think it was on the school kids getting treated better if they're cute.
No, I think it was the bit that I disagreed with was about the male type managerial job.
Oh, right.
I just cannot understand. I mean, I work in engineering, and whilst there may have been a culture of that in engineering today, it's very, very. I think it's a lot more balanced, and I work with a lot of women who are like in really, really good positions, and I have done throughout my career. And my feeling is it seems to be a bit more balanced. I don't know if it's the same. I mean, I know there are some areas that are overrepresented in others. I mean, without any facts on the table, Chris, even anecdotally teaching, there are probably more women teachers than there are men.
Yeah.
Nurses, there are probably more female nurses than there are male nurses. I don't know. I've no facts.
Yeah, I mean, there's traditional, there's traditional associations that, like, the trend still goes towards, even though either gender could do it.
But when I read, this is me coming in from my viewpoint, when I read that male type managerial jobs, I don't see that in engineering so much.
No, I dated she was a pole dancer who was a civil engineering manager. So like she had was working with like lads on a building site, and she is like in charge, and she was a pole dancer, and she like just handled it with humor. Like the guys were making all sorts of like assumptions, like, oh, she's a stripper or something, but she, she's a very intelligent woman who like understood like the physics and the like understood people management, and I think she just owned it and was very confident about it, and so it didn't hold her career back. And people stopped being idiots when she was like, what the hell, She just like, what are you, 5? Yeah. Okay.
Move on. The next section is quite
crime and courts.
Yeah, this is an interesting one.
Okay, do you want to read from your notes or shall I read?
Okay, with that, right. So crime and courts. Attractiveness is also a status cue in the courtroom, particularly for defendants in criminal cases. Typically, defendants perceived as unattractive received longer penalty sentences than their more attractive counterparts. Wow. Right. So that's extremely interesting. I think on our last discussion, Chris, we got onto the what was the guy's name called?
Wait.
Jeremy
Meeks. Jeremy Meeks.
Yeah. So this guy was a criminal, and I think he had a mugshot.
Wait a second. I'll get this up.
Have you got his shot?
Yeah.
And I missed a comment. I think Sim put a comment up last time about we was asking him, yeah, look at that mugshot there. I mean, the guy is like, you know, he's pretty in it. Let's be honest. He's a good-looking dude. I don't know if did that do anything for him for his sentence, or I know I don't
know. It's not possible. Okay, so we can say
he came out with a modelling career, though, didn't he? Just
so he was convicted by a federal judge of one count of being a felon in possession of a firearm, was sentenced to 27 months in a federal prison. The judge further ordered that Meeks participate in 500-hour Bureau of Prison Substance Abuse Treatment Program. He was incarcerated, blah, blah, blah. He served 13 months of the 27-month sentence, which is light for the US, I think, and was released in prison on March 8th, 2016, after which he was ordered to reside in traditional housing facility for a few weeks. Then he had a modeling career.
Yeah, so can I just point out here, that's 13 months that he was inside, I'm going to say it was very cheap for what he ended up coming out with. You know what I mean? I don't know what his modelling career gave him. I presume it was fame and lots of money. But
yeah, fame, lots of money.
Some people spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on education and years studying to get even a tenth of what he earned. And all he did was 13 months inside, probably being fed and watered, and come out with a modelling career. But you know, it wasn't about. He did quite well out of it. You know, if you think them 13 months. Yeah,
and I mean, you know, this is when his mugshot was posted on the Stockton Police Department's Facebook page. Within 24 hours from when the photos were posted to the department's page, Meeks' photo had acquired more than 15,000 likes and 3,700 comments, mostly from women enamored by his looks. So it's like, yeah, oh my gosh, men are so disgusting. They just objectify women, and you know, it goes both ways.
Yeah. But the next bit then. However, these results are often confounded with gender as a greater advantage for women, and with race as a greater advantage for those with darker skin tones. Oh, greater disadvantage for those with darker skin tones. So what are we saying here? I'll just read that.
Women do have lighter prison sentences for the same crimes as men.
Yes.
So there's an advantage being a woman if you're.
Is that a fact? I mean, anecdotally, it sounds.
Yeah, it's a fact. I can, let me Google it. Crime, female. Okay, sentencing. I'm Googling this right now. Male versus female.
Right.
Yeah, so here's a study from Bristol, or something from Bristol University. Gender stereotypes see female criminals fare better in court.
Yeah.
Official statistics from France, the UK, and the USA all show the preferential treatment of women through the criminal justice system.
Probably true, yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, there's other papers that I've read on it, but not this one. But in general, that trend exists.
This is a really unfortunate one, because you think about crime and courts and justice. Everyone just wants justice, don't they? Like, you know, we want fair treatment in the courts, surely. So this one's a really, really bitter pill to swallow. And I think this particular issue has been the source of a lot of probably political events over the years, political unrest. You know, I'm just thinking about the States and, you know, the whole, what happens, like, you know, because the whole argument there, like the Black Lives Matter thing, you know, that black guys are treated unfairly by the police. And it's really unfortunate, that issue there, because you know, I've not read the papers, but it's suggesting that there may be some bias there.
Yeah, and they're more likely to be, even in the UK.
I'm not sure you get over that one, Chris, because, you know, everyone just wants justice, don't they? Equal.
Yeah, but
no, equal treatment for everyone, and yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you have like unconscious bias training in work and stuff like this, because people have these biases, and it's, I think, generally just being self-aware, and like, I think it needs to be part of a larger self-awareness movement. I think self-improvement shouldn't be meditation, like therapy, like knowing what is going on under the surface, shouldn't be just for a small section of society. It should be done by everyone, because then you could realize when you're treating someone differently because you have some bias towards this sort of person.
Yeah, it talks about civil court cases. The advantage of attractiveness in the courtroom are also seen in civil cases. One study employed direct comparisons of attractiveness in the courtroom by manipulating attractiveness when pitting plaintiffs against the defendants in mock jury trials. Wow. You can imagine that going on. Kuhler and Kessler found better outcomes, such as the winning the case and awarding more financial damages for attractive plaintiffs pitted against unattractive defendants than in cases with unattractive plaintiffs pitted against attractive defendants. That will be an interesting one to read. I mean, there's other things in the court case as well that I read about the things like parole. This is not to do with attractiveness, but parole as well. I've read it in a couple of books actually, where if you go for a parole hearing after lunch, you're significantly worse off than if you go for a parole hearing in the morning, because the parole board and the judges just get tired after eating food. And
I thought it was before lunch they were hungry and therefore angry, and therefore they just want to get it over with and just.
I think there's a bit of science to it. I've read it in a couple of books. Can't remember the books. If I find them, I'll find out which books they are and put it in the comments. But I've definitely read where if you're going to go for a parole hearing, you want to go at like 10 a.m. or something, like in the morning when they're fresh. Whereas if you go in the afternoon and after lunch and they're all stuffed and they just want to go home, everyone's tired and stuff. And I do this. So on a sales call, like for my business, I always try and put them in the morning. The worst time would ever be Friday afternoon, because if you think about in sales, you want to get to a close, right, as soon as possible. And the last sort of 20 minutes you want to leave to do the negotiating about next steps. If you have the later that meeting is in the day, the less chance you're going to get an outcome on the next steps. Even, things that I've seen. And I imagine that's similar with the whole parole board hearing thing. We're going off topic here, but when it's talking about crime and cause, there's so many elements to it. Yeah, I get that on the attractiveness, and it is unfortunate, but there's also the time of day that, we are just more alert and ready and able to make certain favourable decisions. So we could talk. I could go down rabbit holes on that, because there's also things such as cognitive ease. The easier you make something for someone to make a decision, the less friction there is. If they've got to do loads of reading and they don't quite understand something, they're not going to make a favourable decision on it. They're just going to stall or delay. Whereas, if you want to close a sale, you need cognitive ease. You need to make it as simple as possible and easy for them to understand and make the decision, the buying decision. Feels like we're going off topic, but everything is buyer seller in life, really. This is an interesting section, Chris. Success in everyday life. This first section, a study by Mulford et al. Examined the link between attractiveness and cooperation in an exchange relationship between two individuals. In general, subjects were more likely to cooperate with those that they found attractive. This is just general everyday life. Whilst also expecting those they saw as attractive to cooperate more often. So, and then as it goes down, it talks about social interactions, talks about people perceived as attractive to be better socially. And then the last bit, these studies show more attractive individuals tend to be more successful in everyday exchange than their less attractive peers. Talks about a lot of different things there, but it's just in general. So anecdotally on this, I find it's like what we said last time. This is just purely anecdotal now. If you dress smart and go into a restaurant or go into a shop or board an airplane or go anywhere in public dressed smart, my anecdotal evidence is you will be treated differently just by dressing smart. And I don't know if you know that, can confirm that yourself. You're on mute, Chris.
Oops, sorry. Yeah, I think it factors into how people view you. People make a whole bunch of assumptions based on how you're dressed. And it's something, again, you don't have to do anything, but it's better to have the knowledge and then make your decisions as appropriate. Mm. Like, it would be great if we lived in a world where everyone just looked into the heart of everyone else and saw them as a person and saw their personality. But people don't see your personality until they get to know you. And very often people won't get to know you unless they're interested in the superficial side of you.
Yeah, okay. It's talking about attractiveness, so I presume there's also a difference there. That one thing you can do is dress smart. That's in everyone's control, you know.
Well, we discussed last time, dress smart and be in shape.
Well, yeah, being shape's an interesting one, because
without going to an extreme, but just be in good health and fitness.
That is relatively within your control. There are slight nuances around that, but yeah, you know, it's within your control. And dressing smart is definitely a bit easier, I would say, because, you know, getting in shape takes a lot of effort if you're not. But, you know, it is a long game. But dressing smart is something that you can choose to do every day. Whether you're physically attractive naturally, that sounds a bit harder to achieve. You know, you can't do anything about your height. I'm sure there are things that you can do about your height.
Yeah, I mean, you've got guys paying for
leg
extension surgery, which ends up like crippling them for the rest of their lives. They can't like ever lift weights. They can't, you know, they're in pain for, like, some of them forever. They, like, you see the stories. Oh, women are more attracted to me now. Therefore, it's great. And
what about? I don't know if you saw. It was about a year or two ago. There was a massive rise in these trainers. You know, did you ever see them trainers that?
Yeah, I see them advertised on Facebook and Instagram and stuff a lot.
They were advertised everywhere. Yeah. Like, and the whole thing was like a guy puts a mark on the wall, stands against the wall, and then bangs his trainers on, and all of a sudden he's like 6'5" with a pair of trainers on, but the trainers look normal. I saw those adverts everywhere, and I just, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad. I mean, I remember being like 18, and I that was when I first clocked that it was like such a big thing for so many women. And before that, I had no idea. I wouldn't have, like, I didn't see myself as lesser of a man than a taller guy. But when I started seeing how brutal some women are about that was disheartening.
Yeah. I mean, just on height and things, like, one thing I've got with myself, like, my limbs seem to be really long compared to, like, even my arms, you know. I mean, obviously this will be like a fisheye lens here, so it's distorted. Yeah. But like, when I was in the gym and had a personal trainer, and he used to tell me, like, your femurs, like, you know, you're like the really long, which means when you squat it's difficult, you know. Yeah. Like, and then my arms are super long, so when you bench press it's hard. Whereas you ever see, like, you know, the best bench press,
short arms, guys,
they're really stocky, aren't they? You know what I mean? But I've got, my arms are like really long, like a gorilla. You know, they're almost dragging the floor.
Spider monkey.
But good, you know, it reach in a combat situation, but and probably useful in many areas. But yeah, not the best at bench pressing. Let's put it that way. You want short, stocky arms for that. But anyway,
where were we? So we were talking about interactions. Okay, this is something I think. Let me go to this section here.
Do you want to share it, Chris? I didn't understand this section, interactional power, to be honest. Or I didn't have anything to note on it.
Okay, but this thing I would say is worth paying some attention to. In an experimental study examining power distance among pedestrians on a sidewalk, Dowds and Stokes discovered that pedestrians stayed farther away from attractive women than an unattractive woman, supporting the "what is beautiful is unapproachable" hypothesis.
Yeah, this is picked up in another section. Yeah, okay, so this is definitely worth some discussion. So,
and I think, because I've taught cold approach, and you always find, not always, but it's surprising that you find, if you think, oh, you know, she's sort of average looking, but maybe she's a nice person, and like she's like, oh my gosh, another one. But if you go to a girl where you think, wow, okay, she is absolutely beautiful, she's bang out of my league, what the hell? And she's just like so pleased to talk to you, and it's like she's never been approached like before.
So I think this is a thing, this, right? Genuinely, when you speak to guys, and even your own situation, your own personal experience, and it's also confirmed when if you've ever spoken, like when you speak to a pretty girl, the amount of times where they say they don't get attention and they don't get approached. And I think I was having this discussion the other day, and it was, who's the female psychologist that's like really famous at the minute, going on all the...
Sadia Khan.
Yes. She did a piece on it where she mentioned something, words to the effect, I can't remember the exact words, you can probably find the video. She said, the woman that is put together, that is reserved, who doesn't expose herself online and flash this, that and the other, and tends to be more conservative, will not get the same attention as the woman that flaunts herself online, you know, in terms of attention.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. But in terms of the absolute red hot women, yeah, I don't think they get approached, and a lot of them end up just single because everyone's frightened to approach them. And well, this is like you said, approach anxiety. You know, it is a real thing. Oh, she's out of my league, but you know, the best thing about that, if you are you do have approach anxiety, and it doesn't matter which way, even if it's like the guy who thinks you're a woman, you think, wow, he's gorgeous. If you understand, right, this is a good example of, if there are statistics on this, I don't know if they carry out this study, but when I talked about statistics, this is knowledge that is you can put in your gift here now. So rather than getting upset about this paper, if you understand this one, that the most attractive people never get approached because people think they're out your league, accept that as reality and use it, navigate it, use it to you. You be the one that approaches them. And then you're going to get them because no one else does. So if you think about it, that is an absolute superpower. That is an example. What can I do if I hate this knowledge, I don't like this paper, I don't want to believe it because it upsets my worldview or whatever. The idea is you know, of any kind of philosophy, read it, study it, accept it, and then use it. And you can better yourself. So like, you know, you talked about the whole cold approach thing. Chris, you've probably met guys who classically might even be deemed as unattractive or not faring as the, you know, the old Chad guys.
Yeah.
once they understand this stuff, they can actually go and do pretty well when they accept it, internalize it, and just go for it. And similar for a woman as well, you know. Having the knowledge of what's in this paper is a superpower if you can use it right. No matter where you are, you play the cards that you dealt. So yeah, I agree with that. I think the most attractive women are, you know, people are afraid to approach them, 100%.
And the interactions, like I said, the interactions that you have with them, the interactions I've had with them, because they don't actually get approached so often, are really, generally really positive.
Yeah, I think it's the same with guys as well. So, like, one girl will probably be a bit, I don't know, probably be a bit hesitant to approach one really attractive guy. If that girl's with her girlfriends and there's quite a bunch of them, they might go over because they can like mock him a bit and make a bit of fun out of it, you know. That might be a bit easier, you know, but yeah.
Honestly, I think if a girl is willing to say, okay, I feel really nervous even coming up to you, but I wanted to say I thought you were really handsome and like I'm so and so, that would should be a game changer. Like no women are doing that.
Yeah, but that's not a classic. That's not classically the female role.
No, it isn't.
Guy's job.
It isn't. But if it happened, I mean,
oh yeah, that would mean something.
Yeah, it would be like, okay, like if there was any attraction there at all, he'd probably take it seriously.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's not normal. So they might, you know, usually a woman will give an indicator of interest. And then it's up to the guy to sort of read that to you.
Women are terrible at this. It's like,
well, I think it's the other way around. I'm going to correct that. I think guys are terrible at picking up the cues.
Yeah, it's both. It's both.
More of that.
But sometimes women's indicator of interest is like, you know,
like yeah.
Which is why, like I said, like if you make eye contact with her, you have to approach because that's sometimes all you get.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't get anything. Sometimes you don't get anything, and she doesn't even see you until you're literally there. And then she's really impressed that you're brave enough to go and talk to her.
But I'm interested in this one where it says discovered that pedestrians stayed further away from an attractive woman than an unattractive woman. How did they carry out that research? Was it just asking questions? I've no idea whether they had like people stood surveying traffic lights or, you know, crossings and
I haven't read it. I can imagine like they usually assess attractiveness by giving photos of these people to people that weren't involved in the experiment and like getting other people to rank them. And so you've got like, okay, therefore we've got like this 7 out of 10, this is a 6 out of 10, whatever. Like you get people to assign a score who are not part of the experiment, and then you look and see, like, measure how closely people were actually standing.
Do they literally send out a stooge, like someone who is posing to be the attractive person?
Yeah, very often.
In the situation. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, going back to actually some experiments of like very often they'll like use a psychology student, and on the dressing part, I know there was some experiment where like they dressed the guy up really well, and then just another time really casually, and just saw how people interacted with him differently. I can't remember when or who did that off the top of my head, but there's some study out there on that.
Yeah, even anecdotally, I myself, I love to wear jackets. And I'm pretty sure, you know, even anecdotally, you just get treated differently when you get on an aeroplane with the jacket on. I know I've mentioned that. I think it's true. I just feel it because I always do it. And, you know, I don't know. But yeah, you are probably, sorry, that section there about the really attractive women, it's probably really attractive men as well, get approached less. People avoid them. Yeah, I can get on board with that. The next section on health I found absolutely fascinating, Chris.
Okay, which part do you want to look at?
Well, I've read the whole thing and I've underlined it, but
okay, give me a part that you want me to draw attention to.
Okay, so right, okay, so where it says Kallick found that facial attractiveness was not related to adolescent health, nor was it predictive of health at later stages. However, raters attributed higher health to the attractive stimulus persons. They also found that when they statistically controlled for attractiveness, the correlation between perceived health and medical health assessed health increased, suggesting that attractiveness suppressed accurate recognition of health. I didn't read that very well, but what this is suggesting to me that if someone is attractive, they're perceived to be more healthy.
Yeah.
And if you read the next sentence says quite a lot. This finding should be explored further as potentially negative health outcomes for individuals could result in healthcare professionals making erroneous evaluations about patients' health by using attractiveness as a health indicator. That's pretty bad. So it actually goes on in the conclusion to say this, that from a health standpoint alone, if you're attractive, it's actually you end up it's a negative in terms of your health, because you're always overly assessed. You're always assessed to be more healthy than you actually are. So you can end up with, I don't know, misdiagnosed, or oh, you'll be all right, like you don't need any treatment, you're fine, you look all right.
Yeah. This is not so much about treatment, but this is like an anecdote that happened to me recently. I started a new job recently, and in Poland you have to have an occupational health examination before you start a new job.
Okay.
And like the doctor was.
What is that like? Is that like just a general cultural thing, or is it?
Yeah, it's like they test your eyesight and your heart, and just. Okay, I think it's like most of Poland's HR law is like based on working in a factory, so it's.
Have you got fingers and toes and all the rest of it?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's weird, like because in the UK we don't really have them. It's like you go to a doctor if you.
Yeah, well, they do. In the big corporates, they have like various assessments. You know, like is it RSE assessments they call them? But they're more for like if you've got trouble with.
Yeah. So, but
keyboard, just,
but for this is like everyone. This is everyone. It's like we need to check that.
Right. So in the UK, the UK, they wouldn't do this for a job interview unless it was a very specific job, like going into the army or something. That. So they wouldn't assess, they wouldn't penalise you for it. What they do is after you've got the job, you do an assessment. And if you need special equipment, they'll give you the special equipment. Yeah.
But this is like it's done for everyone. Like once you have got the job, you need a sign off from a doctor to say you're healthy to start. Anyway, I'm going off topic here, but it was just a laugh that when I went for my occupational health assessment, the doctor was like this, like she was about 5 foot tall and 5 foot wide and 60 years old, and like she asked me to take my shirt off, and she's just like, oh, very, very nice, very good. Oh, how many times do you go to the gym a week? I was like, oh, just twice. It's like, oh, twice. Like, well, very, very good, very good.
Tick.
It was just so ridiculous.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I texted a friend after, and she was just like, yeah, she probably doesn't see many people who are actually in shape. That's it. But yeah, I do think you do hear a lot of cases of people who are young and assumed to be healthy, and they have an underlying condition, and that's not taken seriously when they go to see a doctor.
Yeah. It says further down, while many studies have examined perceptions of health, one study used a national sample to assess the impact of attractiveness and actual achievement and actual mental health. the authors found that one's attractiveness is significantly related to one's achievement and psychological well-being. So I find that one to be odd. So are they correlating that if someone is attractive, then they've got better physical, psychological health? I don't know what you made of that there, Chris, but
I think
if you're attractive and you know it, then you probably feel better about yourself. I don't know,
but I think it's related to the self-fulfilling prophecy of like you weren't treated that well if you were unattractive, and so you ended with worse mental health.
Probably, yeah.
And also like you're not hired and you're not promoted as much if you're not as attractive, so your achievements are lower.
Yeah.
So it just snowballs through the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just conscious we've been going on a lot, so
yeah.
Okay, we're coming to the conclusion anyway.
There's only one last section, then we're on the conclusion.
Yeah.
So the next section is talk about marketing and advertising. So this one, what is beautiful is good effect. So this is talking about in the advertising world, marketers are using my Alexa's going, I don't know why. Sometimes they just pick up something that you say and start talking. When the attractiveness of a celebrity endorser was manipulated in an advertisement for disposable razors, attitudes and purchase intentions changed, you can kind of get on board with that. Advertising has been, it's always, we know advertising has been one of the main areas where attraction and beauty has been used to manipulate buying decisions. It's no secret. One thing I wanted to just came to my head on that was something that I saw. I heard someone talk about was how the whole body shaming thing, and how in the 1990s we had this unrealistic size 0 catwalk model thing going on to sell clothes, which sold loads of clothes, but it put this unrealistic image, let's say, in young girls' heads, right? And I think that was a reasonably good move to try and look at that, because it was, you're talking about, it's like fitness influencers, Chris, right? When you look at fitness influencers, and the danger with anything like that is you're talking about the top 0.0001% of world physiques. You know what I mean? It's not normal to look like that. And they've always got, like, when they take a photo, they've always got the lighting bang on. They've just got a pump from going to the gym and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's the same as the size 0 model on the catwalk. You know what I mean? You've got these fractional, I don't want to say top, because it's all subjective.
Yeah, it's a very unique.
It's not normal to look like that. But what the advertising industry did, I think it was not Victoria's Secret. Was it Victoria's Secret that went from the size 0 model to all of a sudden promoting the plus size models?
Yeah.
And then over recent years, they've rolled back on it, because I think apparently, you'd have to do your own research on this, but the board of directors were getting concerned with a drop in sales, and they just said, look, we've had enough of this, it's not working, and I understand recently, I don't know which of these brands have done this, but I think a couple of brands have gone back on that whole agenda and switched back to I don't think they're going back to sort of size 0 models or anything, but they're switching back to what we consider in the main to be attractive.
Yeah, and I think they realized it's not, oh, this person looks like me that makes people buy. It's this person looks like the way I would want to be.
Yeah, it's like,
and it's like we've signed up to like, no one goes to a personal trainer who is fat. Okay, some people do, but not many people do. People go to a personal trainer that looks the way that they want, they wish they could.
Yeah, I know a few personal trainers, and I think you will prejudge them on that regard. You know what I mean? Can I say that? Same in any profession. If you want to get something, I always say success leaves clues, right? Or whatever. That's a good term. I think that comes from like Tony Robbins or something. He says it, but it's really true. So in any domain, if you think personal training, you want to go for someone who has a physique that you wouldn't mind having, you aspire to. So it's like any goal. It's like on the horizon.
Yeah, but I think Rich Cooper said something like,
same in anything, Chris. If you wanted to say, learn how to do stock trading, you'd want to go to someone who has a brilliant stock portfolio. You won't go for someone who's just losing money, would you?
Yeah, I think
therefore you won't go for someone who's out of shape to try and get you in shape. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Rich Cooper said, never take advice from someone whose life you wouldn't want to have.
Correct. Yeah, but simple fact is, if you go to someone for help in a particular domain or area, you're going to go to someone who's got the results that you want in that particular domain.
Yeah.
So in the context of this piece, marketing and advertising, in business and politics, yeah, you're going to naturally go to someone that you, it might even be out of your scope at the minute, or out of the immediate possibility. There's nothing that's impossible, but you're going to go for someone that presents a vision.
Yeah, and speaking of vision, that also ties into the thing we talked about earlier about politics. And this part, a recent study in Australia where voting is compulsory found that more beautiful candidates were more likely to be elected. The researchers also measured the return on votes for attractive candidates, with one standard deviation increase in beauty yielding a 1.5 to 2% increase in votes. A similar study in Finland found an even larger return, with one standard deviation increase in beauty associated with a 20% increase in votes.
Yeah.
It's not about what the politicians stand for. That's not what people are voting on. And this is why I don't think democracy is without its faults, because the demos, the people, can be swayed very easily over things that are not important.
Mm-hmm.
And but also this next part also is a bit of a counterpoint in that it's the less is known about candidates, the more people are relying on appearance as a low information heuristic. So in the absence of other information, candidates' attractiveness significantly influenced raters' evaluations of the candidates' personal qualities and political ideology. However, as discussed above with education settings, providing additional information about party memberships and positions on issues buffered these effects, i.e. it reduced them, with attractiveness thus having no effect on evaluations. So going back to what we said before about you meet someone, you're deeply attracted to them, and you have this halo effect. You think, wow, they're so beautiful, therefore they must be so great in all these other areas. When you actually get more information about them, that can really take that away. Like some people can be really, really attractive to us until they open their mouth and we get to know more about them.
That reminded me of something. So
Go ahead.
In Thinking Fast and Slow, the book, Daniel Kahneman's book, this low information heuristic, he spends a lot of time talking about various studies. There's a term, what you see is all there is, right? And the whole premise of it is people, the brain can make a story or take a view on anything on the smallest amount of information possible. Like, it needs a really small amount of information to create a particular view, and then it creates a story, and then you create a belief. And it's unbelievable how small that can be. And yeah, that's where you get the halo effect. You know, first impressions really count. It's like what we said last time. If you go into a job interview and you perform really well in the first 5 minutes, that's pretty much all you have to do. You know, they will hire you. Well, let's say there's 20 applicants and 19 of them absolutely fluff it one way or another. They come in, they trip over, whatever, they say the wrong things, something doesn't go right, and then you're the only one that performs flawlessly. And not only do you perform flawlessly, you really outshine in the first 5 minutes. Even without them looking at your CV, you'll probably get the job. The more information might be, right, well, let's have a look at the CV. But I presume that they've already pre-vetted them candidates in the first place. So you put your CV in. If you get a job interview, you can already you can already accept that they've already accepted your CV. As long as you don't fluff the interview, you probably stand a good chance. And that's, this low information heuristic here. I get that. And when they've got to go off is how you look and present yourself. Another example here, I know we're getting towards the conclusion, but my conclusion to the whole thing here would be read this stuff, understand it, and then navigate it to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Go into an interview, dress smart, prepared, relax, don't trip up on your way in, and you'll probably do all right. Write a good CV. These are all things that you can control.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is a good part to conclude on, I think. I mean, is there anything in the paper on the conclusion we want to bring out? Because it's kind of...
Not really, Chris. It's all a repetition of all the detail, to be honest. But maybe this section here, there's one part. Another section on exploring it talks about the two theories. Much research appears to have overwhelmingly support what is beautiful.
Sorry?
Top of the conclusion.
Okay, yeah, got it.
So my lighting, I might have to open that curtain because my lighting's dropping in here. More research appears to overwhelmingly support the what is beautiful is good hypothesis rather than the beauty is beastly effect. Whilst the two studies in our review may initially seem to disapprove that what is beautiful is good hypothesis, we argue that these two studies actually support it. In the beauty is beastly study, beauty may still be conveying competence in such scenarios, albeit a threatening level of competence. This is really good, this next bit. Unattractive women and men may view attractive females as competition. So that's probably a tiny little talking point. Unattractive women and men may view attractive females as competition. Is that where it comes in the workplace again? I don't know, or is it in general? And then further down, similarly in the study demonstrating that beauty is unapproachable phenomenon, attractive women may be seen as intimidating. And then I think on the following page it says, can a person be too beautiful?
It reminds me of that phrase from Zoolander. I think maybe he's just too good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's almost like playing the victim because he's too beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that one on unattractive men and women may view attractive females as competition. I could probably get on board with that, but that might be just envy, maybe, on anything like that. On envy, I personally can. It's like even success. Whenever in my younger years, I always wanted to be successful, and whenever I'd see someone who was really successful, I could never be envious of them or anything like that. I'd always I'd love it. I'd really champion it, and think, oh, just want to spend time with them, you know, and come up. And I think that's the best way to be. But, you know, envy's a real thing. So, yeah. Beauty is unapproachable. Attractive women may seem as intimidating. I think everyone's had that, you know, when you talk to a really pretty girl and your heart's going like that a little bit. Well, that's just fairly normal. You just have to, yeah. But there's not really much else. The only one that I saw that I thought might be worth the chat, I didn't really analyse it very much. On the second page, the next page, just go down, Chris. Halfway down the page, my lighting's really dropping here. Where it says, interestingly, today's technology is also fostering attractiveness status cues in virtual environments. Have you got that one?
Yeah.
Right. Perceived attractiveness of avatars, digital representations of individuals' online identities, apparently also matters in online interactions, right? And then the next bit, Berend examined the effects of avatars in the context of employment interviews and found that job candidates with more attractive avatar ratings received more favourable interview ratings. I didn't even know that were a thing.
That's for me. Yeah, I'm surprised by this because
I am super surprised.
Like avatars, as in those stupid little cartoon things that look nothing like a person.
Right. Like, it is my piece on this, right? I have told so many people, right? Like if I get a lot of messages on some social media platforms, particularly for me, business. On business, it's like LinkedIn, right? I get people trying to sell me things all the time. It's like all day long, they're just going ping, ping, ping. And anyone that tries to contact me directly with an avatar or a fake picture, I just go, no, 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 won't even read it. I will not entertain anyone that doesn't show the true identity. And similarly, on things like WhatsApp and I think if you don't have even a YouTube thing, if you haven't got your face, all right, I've not got mine because it's a channel, but you can go on there and see me. But anyone that doesn't have their face in full view, all these silent, I just don't get it. I don't get on board with this at all. I think if somebody's using an avatar in place of a face, I just think that's just weak.
Yeah.
Is the word. Like, you know, when a guy asks me a question or whatever and a bit of advice, first thing I always say to them, why have you got that picture on WhatsApp? Put your face there, you know. That's where you should start. Because I think that if someone sees an avatar, it's like they can't connect with the real person.
I think it hides.
Your face immediately, you can get on with it.
Yeah, I think it hides. It's not. I mean, okay, there's this kind of less is more. Yeah, there's this less is more factor. In that sometimes people can imagine what the person is like, and sometimes that's more attractive. But I think if you have anything to show at all, like that's positive, showing your real face is much. Like showing a good photo of yourself, like showing some personality in your photo, I think is going to beat an avatar.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but obviously, if you need an avatar, if it's avatar against avatar, then yeah, I get it. Attractive avatar is going to be better than and this is a strange one here. It says further down, avatars could be a fruitful technique to employ in attractiveness research, perhaps expanding our understanding of social interactions. Arguably, a person can choose whatever avatar he or she wants. This is an important one. So, like, why would you choose a bad avatar?
Because you might not think it's bad. You might not think it's bad, but it is.
Yeah, but is it like... I don't know. This is purely anecdotal again, but do people choose avatars based on their own, how they perceive themselves to be, like an identity?
I think so.
A bit like, you know, when they always say that people look like the dogs.
Yeah.
They always choose a dog that, you know, I don't know, that suit their owner. I don't know. Is it like an internal identity thing? But yeah, I find that strange because I don't understand. I don't use avatars, so no idea what that means. But
yeah. I'd put a question mark on that, but that's. I think the best avatar is yourself.
Yeah, agreed. So
yeah.
In concluding this paper, Chris, I would say that, you know, you can read this and judge this stuff how you want, but the worst thing you can do is ignore things just because you don't like the sound of it. I think the best thing you can do is empower yourself with how the world really is, accept it, and then navigate it from there. And like, it reminds me of, like, even myself, right? I consider myself to be quite privileged now, especially by this paper, and the fact that over recent years, you know, I've got some successes, not a lot, but I've got some. And going off the paper, I'm in quite a good position. But I felt that it wasn't always that way. You know, when I came from I'm by no means a victim. I came from a very underprivileged childhood, and my childhood wasn't great, and I had nothing basically. And I just remember, you know, seeing the kids that came from a more stable family background, had the needs met more, and all the rest of it. And I thought, wow, it's going to be a lot of work just to even level peg with these people, you know. But it's like everything, you just, you know, I hacked my way out of that. I've worked my way out of that situation, and I've bettered myself to dig myself out of that, you know, that underprivileged starting point, to the point where, you know, I'm all right now. But where does that fit into this? It's like, you accept the cards that you're dealt, right? Not accepting the cards that you're dealt is only going to hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go from there, and understanding how the world really works. Not you shouldn't take the, you know, you should not go about life with the view of how you want the world to work. You should understand how the world really works, not how you want it to be. And then just accept your cards where you are, and then just there's things that you can do, you know, to improve. And you go.
And I think many people, especially, like, there's a movement called the Black Pill, which basically says, looks are everything. If you don't have them, then you're doomed, and there's no point even trying. And that's a really defeatist mindset, which gives a lot of people comfort, because, you know, they get the advantage of, okay, then I can relax. I don't need to do anything. And they also can feel like there's a sense of community in that they're a band of like people who have given up together. But I don't think that's the conclusion. I don't think that's a healthy conclusion. And I thought I was an ugly, unattractive person for most of my life. And only by testing to see how far I could get, like, what happens if I get in very good shape? What happens if I get out and improve my confidence and talk to people?
How much of that do you think, right, because there's two sides to this, right? You've got, I do believe that you have to start with all the external stuff, like getting in shape. But the real battle, you can do enough external work, all the, you know, go and get some money and buy some nice clothes and get in shape and all that. But the real battle is internal. So, you know, when you believe that you was not an attractive person, how much of that was internal versus external?
I think most of it was internal, because, but they go hand in hand. Like the believing that I was I couldn't believe that I was an attractive person without having experiences that an attractive person would have. Like I needed to test, I needed to push myself out of my comfort zone. I needed to like explore dating, and like I needed to see how good, like what the difference between me at 18% body fat and me at 10% body fat in terms of how many girls look at me is really vast.
Yeah, that I agree with that. That is 100%.
And sometimes you start to get, I'm actually planning on a video on self-esteem, but the being bombarded with evidence that contradicts your view. Okay, you can hold so tightly to how you view yourself that you ignore the world. But if there's even even if there's any crack in that view of yourself, then the evidence starts to get through that it's not true.
Yeah, you need both for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think that's the great thing when you start thinking and figuring this out, is having that growth mindset to tell yourself that it almost doesn't matter where you are today. If you've got a growth mindset and you let's say you're doing this, you're trying to lose some weight, whatever, it doesn't matter where you are today, because tomorrow you're going to be better, and then the day after you're going to be better, as long as you continually, put in the work, so to speak, and do those things. But yeah, there are also a lot of people that don't necessarily rely so much on the external things and just have a really good internal mindset. And that's another part of it. I mean, the mindset is massively important, but yeah.
I do think though that you can, if you are just confident in mind, but not putting in any work to back it up, that can come across as just deluded. Yeah,
true. That's the difference between a theologian and a practitioner. There's no point just reading.
A theorist and practitioner,
yeah. If you're not going to do anything, you have to put it into practice. What you read, I mean, you read, you internalize it, and then you get out there and do it if you think it's valuable to you. But yeah, I mean, on the black pill community, I know what you mean there.
They've come against me. Like I've had a couple of channels like mention me.
They make some really good points, and that's good. I mean, I think the facts that they raise, and hang on, let's not call them facts. The points that they make, they might be facts. That's for everyone to make their own decision whether they're facts or not. But the points that they make are really good. But then to just sort of sit on them and say, well, that's it, it's over. Well, no. I mean, there's always something that you can do. I mean, it's back to that. It's like, I accept the cards I've got. From this position, what can I do? I accept the cards that I've got. I am where I am. Right, okay, what can I do? And it's like, okay, the only person I'm going to judge myself against is myself. Am I better today than I was yesterday? Am I better than tomorrow? Well, you won't know about the future, sorry. But every day, it's the book, The Gap in the Gain, Measure Backwards. I did a book review on it on my channel. It's a great thing, right? So you have, in The Gap in the Gain, you have a vision, right? This is just about goal achievement now. So you set yourself a goal. That goal should always be in the horizon. You can achieve certain things, but you need to keep moving the goalposts, because you've always got to keep moving forward. So you stick it in the horizon, right? The ultimate goal's got to be massive, and you've got little steps that you achieve along the way.
Yeah. As long as you're taking those little steps.
Yeah, but what you're not doing is saying, oh, I wish I was there. You're not looking, oh, I don't have. What you're doing is you're measuring backwards. You're saying, where was I 6 months ago? Like, where were you 10 years ago compared to you are today?
Unhappily married, and
there you go.
Yeah.
Measure backwards. Yeah. You're not measuring forwards. You're not saying, oh, I wish I was there and I wish I was that, because that's wanting. It's you know, it's desiring too much. What you want to do is just, you've got a goal, you're working towards it, and measure how far you've come. And that's why on my channel, I always talk about journaling, because I think it's like documenting your life in the moment is the best thing you can do, because then you can measure real progress in whatever endeavor. So yeah, the black pill, I would say, are wrong in that regard. Yes, you can come up with all the information, but to just sit there and say there's nothing I can do about it,
you don't know until you try.
Yeah,
put a few years into it, and then come back and make the conclusion.
No one can work miracles, but you can certainly improve day on day.
Yeah.
In whatever you want. Yeah. And also, I think it's okay if you accept and just say, well, I don't want to improve. That's fine too, I think. You know, everyone has their own. I just think when you complain, I don't think you should complain.
Yeah, but the quality of my life is so much better having put in the work.
Yes.
Like the relationships you can have, just the enjoyment out of life when you work on yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally. It pays 100 times back what you put in.
Yeah. Anyway, Chris, should we put the
we've been going on a while
for the viewers? And
yeah, oh my gosh, it's going to take a while to timestamp this one. If anyone feels like doing that, please feel free to leave it in the comments. But yeah, thank you for joining us, and we hope to do this again sometime on another topic.
Okay,
leave comments if you want to leave feedback for us, or have any ideas you'd like us to cover in the future. And thanks very much for listening.